All right, let's get started. Hey, we have been so looking forward to visiting with you. This is Cal Poly Clubs and Organizations, and my name is Chip Newenswander. I serve all the student clubs and organizations here at Cal Poly, of which we have a lot. We have over 400 student organizations that are fully run and led by our students, of which we have 3 joining us today. But before we move on to visit with them, Sarah, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Hawkins, she, her, hers, and I am the coordinator for clubs and organizations at Cal Poly, and I serve primarily as the advisor for our club sports and club sports council.
Awesome. We're also joined by Valerie, Christian, and Jessica, who are each presidents of some very successful clubs in their own rights. Would you all tell us a little bit about yourself, just really quick, your major, what do you like about it, and your club, and what do you love about that? Go ahead.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Valerie Kettering. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'm a 4th-year aerospace engineering major. And I love aerospace engineering because it's just affects so many parts of our world. It's really exciting to be able to make things that bring people closer to their family, to explore outer space. I love the topic. I am the president of Cal Poly Society of Women Engineers. And I'm also involved in engineering ambassadors, who are the folks who give tours on campus. And one of my favorite things about SWE is all of the friends that I've made through that organization. I think it's got a great way of connecting folks with students on campus as well as students in industry. And I think those connections are really what make clubs worthwhile.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Ackroyd. I am with the Club Sports Executive Board. I serve as the Vice Chair for Public Relations. I am also the President of the Men's Lacrosse Club. I am a 3rd-year communication studies major, and what I love about my major is that it's very practical. I learn things that I can apply in most real-life situations, and I believe that everyone, if they have the chance, should take classes to study in communication studies. What I love about serving on the executive board and being in men's lacrosse is the community, the family and friends that I have made by choosing to do these things, and are things that I'll never forget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica, and it's so good to have you here. My major is communication studies, and my favorite thing about it is that it's such a broad subject that you could it has a lot of aspects for a lot of parts of life and studying. And I am the president for the Association of Transfers, as I am a transfer student myself. And I'm also the transfer representative for the Mecha Club. And my favorite part about being a part of those clubs is being a representative for the transfer community. Thank you.
Great, awesome job, everybody. Well, we're going to have a Q&A session, but before we do that, we thought we'd take you on a real quick tour of just kind of what do we love about getting involved at Cal Poly. There are so many things to do, so many ways to get plugged in, and I'm just going to take us to a presentation here real quick, and we'll get started. Can you all see that? Other panelists, can you see what I'm seeing? All right, good, good, good. I'm going to go back up because we are starting at the beginning. So here we go. Cal Poly clubs and organizations, get involved. There's so many ways for you to get plugged in at Cal Poly. I just got to break it to you right now. This is a very active student body. I don't know if they put something in the groundwater or if it's just part of the cultural DNA of what it means to be a Cal Poly student. They're not sitting in their dorm rooms. They come in and it's almost like they're ready to be switched on. It starts with WOW. It starts with all these great orientation programs they have, and they just get going fast. And one of the big things everybody knows about Cal Poly is learn by doing. It's not just a slogan here. It really is a thing. Panelists, can you show a thumbs up if you agree with that statement? I mean, the learn by doing is a real thing here. And so what this person in here in this picture is doing is she's actually doing setup for a huge event. This event, they're carrying stuff. They're actually carrying structures that they have built. These are freshman architecture students. They have to carry it all the way through campus into our design village, AKA Architecture Graveyard. And this is a place where they set up on these hillsides, and this is all Cal Poly property. We have a huge property. They set up these structures, and you can go inside them. They have to sleep in them overnight, and it's just a huge, incredible, unforgettable experience they engage in. Another club that does learn by doing in a huge way is Hyperloop. And Hyperloop, they are doing some stuff that's a little bit over my head, but they are all about like they're discovering ways to engage in magnetic levitation. So stuff you see in like Back to the Future 2, you know, that they're actually trying to pioneer stuff like that. And cold gas propulsion, it's really pretty cool. There's one of their structures that they're working on. But it's not all about learn by doing. There's other reasons to get involved in clubs, right, Sarah?
Absolutely. One of the greatest things about being involved in clubs is their ability to foster career connections. So many of our clubs will host recruiters on campus specifically related to their major to help foster future employee and employer connections. They will also host career-specific career fairs, which is a great way to meet representatives in the industry that you are interested in. Clubs will often attend conferences together related to their major. Here, the Society for Hispanic Professional Engineers is pictured at a recent conference they attended. And also, club members will help each other within the clubs by doing resume writing workshops, or upper students fostering, lower undergraduate students. And so it forms a great community.
Absolutely. Another thing that we're famous for here on the Central Coast is just these beautiful sites that you cannot just you can't just experience them alone. You got to go with a group of friends. Here in the background, I don't know if you can see it really well, but there's a P. That's kind of a you're in Cal Poly territory when you see that P there. And clubs will actually go up and paint that P. They'll go up in hikes. We have a hiking and backpacking club. There's lots of natural beauty that you can go around and see with your friends. Clubs will take the initiative to get you outside of your comfort zones, and they'll go on camping trips to Big Sur. They'll even go out to the ocean. Here's one great example, one of our club sports, Surf Club. They'll travel all over the place. Not to be confused with Surf Rider, which is one of our very involved community service groups where they actually do beach cleanup. And it's just a lot of fun. You go out, you're with people, just like Sarah was saying, that community aspect is so huge. Cal Poly is really too big for you to expect Cal Poly altogether to be your community. You need a smaller group to get together and do stuff and enjoy the beauty that's around you.
Another really important reason that students participate in clubs at Cal Poly is to foster a community. We have many clubs that are affinity-based. Maybe people want to relate to others that share their same cultural heritage or their religious affiliation, or different things like that. It could also be about participating as a group in things. So we have different affinity-based Greek life organizations like Omega Xi Delta that was pictured before, and this is Sigma Omega Nu. We also have club sports. Like I said before, I'm the advisor to them. We have 30 club sports teams, including triathlon and the cycling club pictured here. And that's a great way to get involved, find people that have similar physical interests with you, and stay in shape all at the same time.
Great. And for no extra charge, we're throwing in a bonus item, which is to say, do what you love. So whether you decide to come to Cal Poly or any school, this is really a time for you to explore. You can do things that you've already done and you know you love to do, but it also might be a great time to try something new. Students do it all the time. You give it a try. If you don't like it, try something else. With over 400 clubs to choose from, you really have a whole lot of options. And really, college is better when you do it together, when you do it with others. So whether that involves one of our cooking clubs or some of our different recreation-based clubs, you name it, there's probably a club for it. And where you find it, you're just going to go to clubs.calpoly.edu, and you can see a listing when you click on Find a Club right here of all of the different clubs that we have to offer. Don't see a club that you want, you can create a new club, and it's pretty easy to do. So with that being said, we have Q&A, right, Sarah?
Absolutely. So I'd like to invite everyone, if you haven't already, to add your questions to our Q&A section. We're trying to get to them as quickly as possible. We'll address some of them live, but we'll also type our answers out to you. But to get us started, Chip is going to start by asking our panelists a question, and then we'll get to answering your questions.
Yeah, so let all that stuff percolate in your mind. And panelists, I got to ask you, let's start with Jessica, then Valerie, then Christian. Which of the 5 things that we just reviewed, learn by doing, career connections, local beauty, fostering community, or doing what you love, resonates with you and your club, and why?
Thank you, Chip. For me, it would definitely be fostering community. For for the fact that I'm a transfer student, and I feel like we have those similarities with the group of people that come together, the transfer students. And yeah, we like to have that sense of well-being on campus and find friends and cool activities to do. Thank you.
I'll touch on career connections a little bit. So a story about me when I was a sophomore, really looking to get an internship. I went to the Cal Poly Career Fair, and all of the companies were super wonderful and nice and talked to me and were encouraging, but I didn't get as much traction as I was hoping for. And so I went to the Society of Women Engineers National Conference, and it was the biggest career fair I'd ever seen in my whole life. And every single company I talked to was super interested. They didn't care that I was a sophomore. They were really excited to interview me, and I got an internship at my dream company at the time, which was the Boeing company, through that opportunity that I would have never had if I hadn't joined a club. And I think a lot of professional organizations have those similar career connections that allow undergraduates to really get their foot in the door, maybe when you're not an upperclassman or you don't have all the experience, but you have that passion. It really opens those opportunities up. And I've seen countless folks get internships through SWE's Evening with Industry or all of the major specific career fairs, et cetera. It's really a great opportunity to connect with industry and grow professionally.
As for me, I'm a part of two clubs myself, the Club Sports Executive Board and the men's lacrosse team. And I feel that for both of them, I can touch on both fostering community and doing what I love. For men's lacrosse, I've been playing lacrosse since I've been about 6 years old or so, and I get to continue to do it at a competitive level while also staying in shape and meeting some of my best friends that I will have for the rest of my life. The same goes for the Club Sports Executive Board. I get to help those and be a voice for the people on my team and for other club sports members as well. And I get to continue to meet new people through the club sports meetings and through the board that I work on as well. So I would love for people to find their organizations that they can belong to.
Awesome. Great job, everybody. I'm scrolling through these questions, of which we have a lot. One question is, how do I get involved in the club? The clubs try to make it super easy for you to join. So at the beginning of the year, we have something called Club Showcase, and every club practically that you can think of is out there. And it's almost overwhelming. And in fact, during slow days, we have an info session to help walk you through that process. But they really, really want for you to sign up, and it doesn't mean you're committing to anything. You're just giving them your email address so that they can let you know, hey, here's our first club meeting. Certainly helps if there's free food, you know, it's just their first get together. You can see if it's a good fit. But another recurring question I see is like kind of along the lines of how many clubs should I join, and what kind of time commitment is like too few, is 5 too many? What do y'all say to that?
What I would say is when you come as a freshman, there is not too many clubs that you can show interest in. You can show interest in as many as you want. Cast a really wide net. You never know where your communities are going to be. But as you start to research those clubs, maybe go to a couple meetings, I would focus in on maybe 2 or 3 that you're really passionate about and get super involved there, because you're not going to get as much out of a club if you're just attending a meeting maybe once a month and like doing nothing else. You're really going to get a lot out of it if you're running for officer positions, going to events on the weekends, like putting a little bit of yourself in there. So I would make sure that you're focusing in on clubs that you're really passionate about and spending that time developing those relationships, as opposed to being part of all the clubs but not getting much out of any of them.
I would agree with everything that Valerie just said. Obviously, it depends on the individual as well. I don't believe that there is such an answer as too many clubs to join. You can join whatever you feel like you do. It all depends on how you can wrap it around your schedule. Some clubs are very, time consuming and very taxing. So joining multiple of those might interfere with your work as a student. But there are clubs and such that just, are used for connecting yourself through future career paths, or just building community between you and some other people. So I would show interest in as many clubs as possible as you can, and only find the ones that you truly love and that you want to be a part of.
Great. I'm going to go rogue a little bit here. Jessica, did I hear you say you were involved in a club called Mecha?
Yes, I am.
Okay, it prompted me to think of it because maybe not everybody knows what that stands for. And there's a question about Latinx. Do we have Latinx clubs at Cal Poly?
Yes, we do, and that's one that I'm involved in. And for that philosophy that I go with would be learn by doing, because when I got that position, I kind of didn't know what it would entail. But I'm building my sense of community within other folks that I'm associated with there, and um, being a transfer representative, I could definitely get some information for anyone who's truly interested in learning a little bit more about the club.
Great. I'm also seeing a couple of questions about like academic-based clubs. So Valerie, this is Society of Women Engineers. Do you ever have somebody who's not an engineer, but they're exploring engineering? Do you have to be an engineer to be in that club? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have tons of folks who are in Society of Women Engineers. Contrary to popular belief, you don't have to be a woman to join, and you also don't have to be an engineer. If you're even interested in the STEM fields, or maybe you just like giving back to the community, we do a lot of community outreach. So we'll have folks who just volunteer for those events. A lot of clubs, I know very few clubs that have restrictions on the types of members that they allow to join. It's really, if you're interested and you're passionate and you want to explore, you'll be welcomed with open arms. So don't be afraid that because your major doesn't fit exactly into what they're talking about, or you don't feel your identity exactly fits. I'm sure you'll find a community there and you'll be welcomed.
Hey, Sarah, I'm seeing a lot of club sports questions. You tracking those?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you to everyone who's posting those questions. I'm trying to get back to all of you as fast as I can. Feel free to reach out to me at clubsports@calpoly.edu if you have specific follow-up questions about our club sports program. But one thing I just want to touch on really quickly is the difference between the school level sports or NCAA sports versus club sports versus intramurals, because sometimes that's a distinction that students haven't been exposed to yet. So NCAA, or the school teams, are those Division I teams that compete and travel against other teams. They're fully endorsed by the school and they travel, they have full-time coaching staff, and that's what we call our athletics program. Club sports are teams that still compete and travel and play against other teams, but they are recognized as clubs instead of as Division I athletes. And so this gives people an opportunity to participate in non-traditional sports like fencing or rugby that aren't represented at the varsity level. And it also duplicates some of our varsity sports like basketball and soccer to give additional students a chance to play on campus and to represent Cal Poly that way. And then finally, we have intramurals, which we won't touch on today, but you can find out more information on the ASI website. All of the intramural programs, which is where you have like a group of friends competing against another group of friends, or your major or your club, you form an intramural team and you compete within Cal Poly. And that information is all available on the ASI website.
Great. I'm seeing a lot of questions also about faith-based organizations. We have a lot of faith-based organizations. There's one question here about Cru. Do we have Cru? Yeah, we actually have one of the largest representations of Cru, I think, on the West Coast. We also have several other faith-based organizations. If you go to that clubs.calpoly.edu, you can do a filter by type. And you can look at, you can just look at all the different faith-based organizations. These are completely run by students. And they all have their own like just like every club, they have their own culture, their own personality. So definitely check those out if that's something that's of interest to you. I'm seeing some questions about cost. Do clubs cost for students to attend them? Can you all speak to your clubs?
My club being a club sport, we do have costs to, I guess, essentially be a member, but our costs are somewhat different than most other club costs. As a club, we travel to other schools to play them in competition, so we use our club fees to pay for stuff such as gear, bus fares, hotel if we have to stay overnight, and stuff like that. So depending on which kind of club or organization that you join, some will have costs and some will not.
Yeah, I can speak to this as well. So SWEDAs have a really small cost for membership. It's about $30 for all your time at Cal Poly plus a year in industry. So it's not too much per year, but we also offer scholarships for membership if students are really interested and struggling and don't have the financial resources to be able to pay that $30. We also have scholarships available so that we can sponsor them. Another thing too is that some clubs charge annually while others charge one-time fees. So that's something to consider. Typically, club fees aren't super expensive, and you typically can participate in most aspects of the club without paying the fee, but there might be additional benefits like scholarship opportunities, career resources, or special events that might cost a fee, or you might need a membership fee to be able to participate.
Mhm. And I can touch on the Mecha Club. For example, they have a $25 membership fee that's per academic year. And this would include also some scholarship opportunities and also a t-shirt. And also if you're a graduating senior, that would include maybe a sash to represent your club. So those are a few things.
Great. I'm also seeing some questions about, like here's a question right here about, is there a civil engineering club? Yes, there is. In fact, they very successfully hosted a pretty big conference this last spring on campus. They had like 18 other civil engineering schools come, and they did steel bridge and concrete canoe. If you don't know what concrete canoe is, it's actually a canoe made out of concrete, and it has to float, and it's amazing. It blows my mind what they're able to do. But do they provide opportunities for internships or jobs or anything in the field? Oh yeah. Valerie, tell us a little bit about, like maybe do you have recruiters that come? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is true for most professional organizations, whether you're in the College of Engineering or business, et cetera. But we'll have meetings that will be hosted by companies, and they'll come to recruit our students. We'll have alumni networks who are all coming to recruit students. We'll have connections with folks at the career fair. So we're able to get resumes on the top of the stack, make sure that they're aware. Networking sessions, the list goes on and on. Clubs are a great way to get internships and job opportunities. And I kind of wanted to touch on a question I've been seeing a lot. A lot of people are like, does blank have a club? Yoga, robotics, mechanics. There's literally a club for everything. I highly recommend checking out the website. And if there's not a club, it's very easy to start one. So do not be afraid if like the one niche thing that you find like isn't a club on campus. It's super easy to start one. So I highly recommend checking out the club's website because there's just so many opportunities there.
Great. Just seeing a lot of questions about club sports, Christian. Like, I guess one question is how much time should the average athlete be thinking about with a club sport? Because if they want to do club sport, is it possible to do another club too?
It is totally possible to do other clubs while doing a club sport. Some club sports have a bigger commitment than others. For men's lacrosse, what we do is we just host 3 practices a week in the fall. And then when the season comes around, we do practices Monday through Friday. So we do have pretty much a full-time commitment to men's lacrosse. There are no tryouts. If you want to join the team, you pay the team dues and then you're officially a part of the team. But I have multiple people on the team who are part of other different clubs, different fraternities, all sorts of stuff. So being in a club sport doesn't limit you to be joining other clubs or doing anything else on campus. It all depends on how much time you want to dedicate into one or other things.
Great. Just as a reminder, we try to make it as easy as possible for you to find answers to a lot of these questions just by going on the Cal Poly website. And in addition to that, we have clubs that are hosting their own Zoom sessions. So check out the open house format to see when those are going on, and then check out clubs.calpoly.edu to see a listing of clubs. In that information, you will find the contact information for Christian, Valerie, and Jessica. They're all listed there. So if you had specific questions for them, whether you're a transfer student, I'm sure Jessica would be more than welcome to get your text or your call, whatever. But while we're talking about transfer students, Jessica, can you tell us a little bit, I know we're talking about clubs, but tell us a little bit about coming in as a transfer and how you're helping them transfer students get connected.
Sure, Chip. Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, coming in as a transfer student is a different experience as coming in as a freshman student. And so we also participated in a lot of events of WOW. And WOW really showed us, which is the week of welcome, really showed us what there is to offer at Cal Poly. So that was a really important week for us. And so that kind of just showed us kind of where to head and build our community. And I think for me, WOW was really what made it for me.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for that. So going back a little bit to the, so some of those like academic related clubs or career related clubs. Are all of you involved in one of those, or you occasionally go to one of those, or do you recommend being involved in one of those? How does that work?
I am a part of the comms club here at Cal Poly. What that is it's just a club made up of all the communication studies majors there. What they do is that they have multiple reach out events where, you know, they have the communications banquet where a lot of the teachers go there, a lot of other, you know, people within the field will go there. It's a great opportunity for me to other people and to reach out and talk to other people as well. Communications hosts their own special career fair once a year. I believe this year it already did happen. But there are most majors and most clubs, people will have multiple opportunities to go out and find something that reaches out into career connections, focuses on academics, and make sure you're in the right place at the right time.
Great. Anything from Valerie or Jessica on that?
I mean, I'm obviously really involved in career clubs, so I highly recommend joining one.
Great. So somebody in one of the question forums asked about WOW, and maybe not everybody knows what WOW is. Could one of you kind of like walk us through WOW and our clubs involved in WOW? What does that look like?
I can take that. So WOW is Week of Welcome. It's basically a crash course in all things Cal Poly when you come to campus. So they don't let you be sad and miss your parents too long. You have about one night of any moping that you need to do. And then you're whisked away into this like crazy, chaotic, incredibly fun week where you learn all about the campus, you learn about your different opportunities as a student, you meet a ton of new people, like so many people that you'll never be able to remember their names, but you see them around campus and you're like, wow, I met you 5 years ago, like during WOW, it's crazy. So yes, Week of Welcome is super fun. You'll be paired in a group of about 20 folks. You'll have 2 WOW leaders who are students who in a higher class than you. Sometimes you're grouped by residency hall. And it's a great fun way to participate, and it ends in Club Showcase. So that's one of the last days of WOW. You'll get to see all the clubs on display. Sometimes clubs host events during WOW, but it's not super common. So if you don't see a club that you're passionate about during WOW itself, the Club Showcase is your best bet.
And Jessica, do they have WOW for transfer students too?
Yes, they most certainly do. So there's groups for the freshmen, and then there's a ton of groups for the transfers. And we do a lot of the similar activities. You know, we get to know the community. We get to go outside of the community, maybe even Morro Bay, and do some kayaking or go on one of those little boats just to get to know the area. And it's super fun, just getting to know new people and new people around the community as well.
Great. So I gotta mention kind of the elephant in the room. What are things looking like for you all right now? I mean, so many things are virtual. All around the world, things are virtual. Cal Poly is no exception. What does that look like for you all? I mean, how are you making things happen even in this environment?
I would say the most important thing is to just stay optimistic. Obviously, nobody could have saw this or guessed that this was going to be coming until very recently. Obviously, things didn't turn out the way many people did, but it doesn't mean that what we're doing here as students or with clubs is irrelevant or over. You know, we still have important roles to play. We still do things as clubs and as organizations. You know, you still have the community that you built within them. So even though you do school and all of your other sorts from online for this quarter, you still have everything that you had before, minus a few key components of the club, but you still have the basic aspects of a club still.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Christian said. The community is still there, and a lot of clubs are doing a lot to keep that community alive. Like we hosted a game night where we did Pictionary over the computer, and we're able to video call during that, and it was just great to see everyone's faces. And so I think that we need to stay optimistic. At least the clubs I'm part of are still planning on being in person during fall quarter, and until we're told that that's not possible, that's what we're hoping for and planning for. Hopefully you all will get to experience the typical freshman experience, but I will say that there's a lot of good coming out of this time, and I think a lot of people are bonding through it, and we'll definitely have a story to tell when it's all over. So stay optimistic, and clubs will be here for you whether you're virtual or in person.
Great. So what would you say to somebody? I mean, obviously, if people are joining this session, they're probably really open to Cal Poly and really open to joining clubs and orgs. But what would you say to somebody who's just like, I don't know if I have the time, or it's just, there's just too much. I want to focus completely on my studies, that kind of thing.
Well, just to kind of touch on that, I feel like it's totally worthwhile to try something new. Like in my case, for example, I tried about a few different clubs that I didn't end up sticking with, because like how you mentioned earlier, Chip, you can pick and choose and see what you like and what you don't. And that went for me. I tried a few things that I didn't like, or maybe it wasn't my thing. And I did find my sense of community and something that I did like Association of Transfers. And with this virtual community, we are definitely trying to work through it and trying to make the most out of it, especially with trying some new things like trivia night or some fun games. But yeah.
I would say that it is completely worth your time to join any sort of club or organization, whether it be a club sport or not. One of my biggest fears that I had coming in as a freshman was finding a new group of friends, a new community that I could belong to. And before even the first day of WOW started, there were emails getting shot out by the current or the former club president at the time, inviting students to a event that they were going to host throughout the week. So it kind of gives you an immediate sense of community. You go and you find people that you really like to enjoy and you hang out with them, but joining a club or an organization gives you an immediate family that you can always turn to.
Yeah, Chip, I want to touch on this too. I hear a lot within the engineering community that there is no time for clubs. And I think that you make time for things that are important to you. And just a little anecdote. So I have a lot of friends in my major, and all of my friends who are, nose to the grindstone, only do studies, have much higher GPAs than your average, have had a really hard time getting jobs and internships because they have nothing to talk about other than their classwork. And recruiters who are coming to Cal Poly, they know you have your Cal Poly education. As long as you meet their GPA threshold, like, you're pretty much good to go. They know what you do in class, but then they ask, well, what do you do outside of class? What clubs have you been part of? What projects have you done? And if you don't have a good answer to that, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And so college is kind of a new ball game in terms of like GPA versus extracurriculars. A lot of people in high school, it's all about GPA and test scores. And if you got into Cal Poly, you probably did very well. But to get jobs and internships, it's a completely different experience. So being involved is really important and very much worth your time if you want to get a job after you graduate.
Right. I hear you saying even if you say, oh, I need to make extra money to make ends meet while I'm in college, it sounds like you're advocating for a longer term view of like what income you're hoping to earn by building connections while you're still in school.
Well, there's that. And I've also worked the whole time I've been at Cal Poly, and I consider that an extracurricular as well. You need to work to make ends meet. That's totally understandable. Make sure you're able to get through school, but I think it's also equally valuable to do clubs and organizations.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Christian, echoing on what you were saying, I think if you don't get involved in something like a club, find your something, hopefully that gets you to connect with people from different kind of across different realms. So if you're staying in your dorm room, you're pretty much only seeing people of your same class. And if you just go to class, you may be seeing people in that major. But if you go to a club, there's a chance of you seeing a whole big swath of people. And it really makes me so happy when I see people walking across campus and they're like saying hi to each other. And, when all this COVID stuff is over, like giving each other hugs. And like, you see that all the time at Cal Poly. They're building connections outside the classroom. It's so cool. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Jessica?
Oh, sorry. No, not at the moment.
Okay, great. So we talked a little bit about cost. We talked a little bit about time commitment. So when you all got started as students, like how many clubs did you join when you first started? Jessica, for you, that'd be when you were a junior coming into the transfer. For, I think for Valerie and for Christian, that was as a freshman. Did you start, and those clubs, are you still involved in those clubs, or did you switch clubs over the time you're here at Cal Poly?
I kind of already touched on it a little bit. I joined a few clubs and some that I liked and some that I didn't. Also one I didn't continue on just because it was just a little bit late at night, and sometimes at night I prefer to do my homework. And so I just found it as an opportunity to balance myself with my school and what I like to do. And it's all about the balance is what I try to go for. Mm-hmm.
Great.
As a freshman, I started looking at, I want to say, about 5 clubs initially. At this point, I am only involved, I believe I only dropped one of them. The clubs I involved myself with are the Garden Club, which was a startup by somebody who started who was in my freshman year tower. The Communications Club, I belong to the Men's Lacrosse Club, and I also belong to the Club Sports Executive Board. So I have been able to maintain all the ones that I initially sought out to find. I've found that, you know, as time goes on, you easily are able to adjust your schedule with all of the clubs that you have going on and with school as well, and you find what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah, when I joined as a freshman, I think I joined 3 or 4 clubs. One that I saw brought up a lot in the questions is Formula Society of Automotive Engineers, or Society of Automotive Engineers in general. I was part of that club for about 1.5 years, and I really enjoyed it, learned a lot. It's definitely perfect for some people, but I knew that I wanted to spend more time on a different project just to kind of diversify what I was showing on my resume. So then I joined Prototype Vehicle Laboratory, which is another hands-on engineering technical club. Finished that up before my senior year, knew I wanted to spend time on senior project. And so I've kind of just like brought in technical projects as I wanted to, and done a lot of different things, but I have been involved with SWE my whole 4 years and have never regretted it. And then joined Engineering Ambassadors my second year. So I think there's just a ton of times that you can start clubs. You don't have to start when you're a freshman and go till you're a senior if you don't want to. And I think that trying out a lot of different things just makes your Cal Poly experience all the more interesting.
Great. I see a lot of questions that are popping up, but I know Sarah is getting to some of those having to do with club sports, and we've got people on our admissions teams that are also answering questions. Sarah, as you're fielding questions, do you see any that are popping up on your radar that you think they need a shout out here?
That's a great question. There have been several about transfer students and what that experience is like in terms of, are transfer students limited from joining specific clubs, or do transfer students get to participate in WOW to come to the club showcase? So Jessica and Chip, if you want to touch on that, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll let Jessica speak it. She lives it.
Sure. Thank you, Chip. Oh yeah, of course. There's so many opportunities for transfer students, just as much as any other student who began as a freshman. WOW just kind of gives you that opening feeling of what there is to offer at Cal Poly. But see, I went to what Chip mentioned as the club showcase, and that also opened my eyes as to what there is to offer. And then Sarah, can you ask the question again, so I could touch on it as well? I forgot the second part.
The other part was, are there clubs that transfer students cannot participate in? Are they limited from certain clubs?
Oh, okay. Not to my knowledge, but I'm not 100% sure on that, as this is my first year and I'm getting to know a lot of things myself. But to my knowledge, no, it shouldn't not be an issue.
No, that's a good bridgeway. There was a question about allowing for diversity and open inclusion. All clubs have to be open to everybody. As you heard before, Valerie was saying that SWE is open to both, all genders. And a thing to keep in mind, I mean, there are some slight exceptions to, like, not for transfer students, but specifically like in some of our fraternities, sororities, they may, fraternity, sorority, they may be looking for a particular gender, or if it's an honors program, you may have to get a particular GPA to be in that program. But those are really the only kind of restrictions. Even, I see a question here, can freshmen create clubs? Yes, of course they can. They do it every year. There's a couple of clubs that I can think of right off the top of my head right now that were started by freshman students. So yeah, you can. You just need 5 people to start a club, and the clubs can get as small as 5, or they can get as big as, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. We've got some really big clubs on campus, so it just spans the spectrum.
And I just want to plug real quick that the Transfer Center is hosting an event this week. The Transfer Experience will be on Monday at 5 o'clock. So I highly recommend, if you are a transfer student, that you check out that session. You'll be able to register through the app, and you can view the full schedule for the virtual open house online.
Looks like we're just about at time. Valerie, Christian, Jessica, here's my one clincher question. If y'all can stick around for an extra minute. If you could give yourself a piece of advice, any piece of advice, doesn't have to be about clubs, but if you could go back to yourself before you became a student at Cal Poly, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself not to limit myself by who I was in high school. I think that in high school, you grow up with the same group of people and you're kind of put into whatever group or box that you grow into. And I know I came to college and completely just like reinvented who I was and like was able to come into my own a lot more and try things that I never thought I would do. If you would have told me as a freshman that I would be leading a club, I would have said, there's no way, that's not something that I would ever be capable of doing. And I think that clubs are a great way to try new things and grow. So be open to those opportunities, because that's the best part of college, is being able to kind of find who you are.
Yeah, and touching on that, stay true to yourself, what you really like to do, your sports, your clubs, and don't let anyone judge you. If you like to surf, or you want to be part of the chess club, totally highly recommend. It's one of the best things you can do, is to be involved and be true to yourself.
One piece of advice I would give a younger me would definitely be to not be afraid to reach out and to start networking yourself, and don't be afraid to, ask questions and really put yourself out there. I've been speaking on how you can balance all the clubs you can and with class and by maintaining a good schedule. But in all honesty, it took me a while to find that balance and to be able to create my own schedule. And it wasn't until I started talking with all the older members of the clubs I was in and getting advice from them as to how to balance all that stuff is truly when I was able to start figuring out how to make sure I can do everything that I want to do with my time here at Cal Poly.
Great. What a pleasure this has been. I've loved spending time with you all. Some great responses, and I am just so pleased with how you have just been serving your groups throughout the year. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to everyone here who joined us for this presentation of clubs and organizations at Cal Poly. Thank you for considering Cal Poly. It's a huge honor. We hope you decide to join us this coming fall. And yeah, with that, I know that our folks are going to continue to answer those questions in the Q&A, and feel free to contact us at clubs@calpoly.edu or clubsports@calpoly.edu. Thanks so much, everybody.